Good morning. Welcome, friends. My name is Chris Boudin. My pronouns are he, they, and I am your membership coordinator here at Beacon. It's good to see you as we welcome each other here today in shared worship. I also extend warmth in spirit and energy as we welcome in the cold weather this morning. We also welcome the folks joining online. And if you're joining online, please drop your name and your pronouns in the chat along with where you're joining us from. And if it's above 20 degrees, we welcome you to send over warmth of location as a gift of shared community. As we recognize the ancestral lands of the Lenape people, whose lands provide the community on which we gather today, I want to take a moment for each of us to greet our neighbors sitting to your left and to your right. And now, if you will, pause with me and take a breath of presence and grounding. I have a few announcements for you today. Today in the library upstairs, after both worship services, we will be building abortion aftercare kits for folks to take home with them as they travel back to states that have banned access to this reproductive justice right. Please see Carol Stachel if you'd like to volunteer after service. On January 24th, we invite you to join us to the next Connecting at Beacon session. If you're new to Unitarian Universalism or new to Beacon, the Connecting session is a great way to learn more about the fantastic work of this congregation and the next steps to becoming a member here. If you have a killer chili recipe, or you just really like chili, as I really do, you're now formally invited to next week's chili cook-off contest taking place on Saturday, January 27th at 6 p.m. It's going to be a fantastic night with good chili, good company. There will be vegetarian, vegan, and meat options. This is a Beacon fundraiser. It's $25 per person to enter, and children under 12 eat free. We still need a few more chili cooks and another great way to keep warm through food and company. There's a flyer with additional information posted on the bulletin board near the stairwell, and you can contact Janet Roberts or Tom McDonald for additional details. Sign-ups for Sign-ups for the winter session of adult community groups are open from now until January 30th. We have flyers on the table directly outside the sanctuary with information on sign-up, but feel free to reach out to me for assistance. And finally, Beacon Cafe is meeting after service upstairs in Bomba Balcony. If you'd like to volunteer for host or baker spots, please see me after the service. If you are new to Beacon or like to connect with folks, Beacon Cafe is a great way to support the healing magic of coffee and conversation, and also a great way to build community by meeting new folks.
And speaking of community, we have quite a musical community here. And my name is Misa Iwama. I'm the Director of Music Ministry. And I just want to say thank you to the members of the choir. Today we have a casual choir day, kind of a chamber choir. And we'll be having all our hymns and our offertory anthem led by the choir. So in the spirit of announcements, I'll just say that we have an afternoon music concert this afternoon, and it is sold out for the second concert in a row. So thank you so much for being part of the music here at Beacon in so many ways. Just have a beautiful community and a common language through music. So invite the choir to come up, and we're going to start with hymn number 1018, which is Come and Go With Me.
Come We're now going to share with you a litany, which is entitled, You Are Welcome Here, written by Deborah Hafner and read by Chris and I and all of you. So your part in this is the phrase, you are whole and welcome here. So can we say it together? You are whole and welcome here. So we'll let you know when your part comes up.
If you are straight, gay, lesbian, bisexual, intersexual, demisexual, pansexual, or asexual, or resist labels completely,
you are whole and welcome here. If you are transgender, non-binary, genderqueer, or cisgender, you are whole and welcome here.
If you are confused about your sexuality, have questions, struggle in intimate relationships, or struggle because you aren't in one,
you are whole and welcome here. If you have had an abortion or an unintended pregnancy, given up a child, had a miscarriage, have AIDS or HIV, struggle with infertility or sexual dysfunction, you are whole and welcome here.
if you have been the victim of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, or sexual assaults,
you are whole and welcome here. If you have made sexual decisions or bad behaviors that you regret, you are welcome here, and we will help offer you restorative justice and healing.
your sexuality is holy and sacred, and an integral part of who you are.
You are whole and welcome here. As Unitarian Universalists, we will side with you, love you, and fight for your rights. We seek to create a world where sexuality and sexual diversity is celebrated with wholeness and integrity. Thank you. And as we kindle the light of our faith, in the spirit of all the people before us who work to bring about a greater liberation, may their light live in us and guide us forward this day.
Good morning, Beacon. My name is Dennis Mannion, he, him, about 5'9". I have reddish-brown hair. I'm wearing a purple sash or stole, indicating that I'm a member of our chaplain team. Our role as chaplains is to extend the spiritual care of our community, and we do that in several ways. One of the ways we do that is as a one-on-one resource for people going through loss, grief, trauma of any kind. We are sort of extensions of the ministry team, and we're trained to listen with compassion. If you'd like to speak with a chaplain or have questions about our chaplain ministry, please see me or any member of the ministry team after today's service, or you can go on our Beacon website for more information. All conversations are in the strictest of confidence. Another way we extend the spiritual care of our community is by facilitating our weekly ritual of community candlelighting. Today, our first candle, as we approach the anniversary of the overturning of Roe versus Wade, is a candle of compassion for all people whose right to reproductive health has been taken away, and of hope that a national consensus will soon lead to the restoration of those rights. A candle of love and concern in these bitter cold days for our unhoused neighbors and other vulnerable folks among us, including people living in poverty, many of whom need to choose between food and heat. A candle of concern for Julia Miller in the hospital recovering from surgery. And a candle of sorrow for Colleen Mannion and her family as we mourn the passing of Colleen's cousin, Beth Gruber, who died suddenly this week at the age of 58. For these and for so much more, we invite you all to come forward now to light a candle here in our sanctuary or wherever you are.
could you please join in singing hymn number 1009, the Meditation on Breathing.
The following are quotes from some of the 12 founding mothers who created the definition of reproductive justice. The 12 include, along with their affiliations at the time of creating the definition, Toni M. Bond, Chicago Abortion Fund, Reverend Alma Crawford, Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, Evelyn S. Field, National Council of Negro Women, Terry James, American Civil Liberties Union of Illinois, Bisola Merenge, National Black Women's Health Project, Cassandra McConnell, Planned Parenthood of Greater Cleveland, Cynthia Nubile, National Black Women's Health Project, now Black Women's Health Imperative, Loretta J. Ross, Center for Democratic Renewal, Elizabeth Terry, National Abortion Rights Action League of Pennsylvania, Abel Mabel Thomas, Pro-Choice Resource Center, Wynette P. Willis, Chicago Abortion Fund, and Kim Youngblood, National Black Women's Health Project. As we read these quotes, we ask you to respond, "We need one another."
When people think the same idea and move in the same direction, that's a cult. When people think many different ideas and move in one direction, that's a movement. Loretta Ross, one of the founders of the Reproductive Justice Movement.
We need one another.
We will not ask for liberation. We will fight for what is ours. We demand LGBTQ liberation and racial justice. Toni Bond Leonard, founder of Black Women for Reproductive Justice. We need one another.
Reproductive justice is a contemporary framework for activism and for thinking about the experience of reproduction. It is also a political movement that splices reproductive rights with social justice to achieve reproductive justice. The definition of reproductive justice goes beyond the pro-choice, pro-life debate and has three primary principles: the right not to have a child, the right to have a child, and the right to parent children in safe and healthy environments, the mothers of reproductive justice. We need one another.
Good morning. My name's Carol Satchel, and I'm one of the new co-leads for the Social Justice Ministry here at Beacon, and I've been involved with reproductive justice. If you're on Slack, you may have seen a couple of messages from me. For almost 50 years, there was a fundamental right to privacy, which included the right to plan a family, including access to birth control and abortion. Even with some limitations, there was a clear exception for the health and safety of the pregnant person. After the Dobbs decision removed federal protections, some states, including New Jersey, adopted laws to protect abortions and provide protections for abortion providers. However, abortion access is continually being challenged and could change at any time. There are currently parts of New Jersey where access to abortions and pregnancy care requires significant travel. Protesters make it difficult for patients and workers to enter medical facilities by yelling, showing disturbing signs, and sometimes pushing or shoving individuals. Outside of abortion clinics, volunteers will encourage individuals to seek care at crisis pregnancy centers instead of entering an abortion clinic. These centers strive to reduce abortions and often don't even offer medical care or any prenatal care. They're just there to prevent an abortion. Bans on abortions are also changing how obstetricians and gynecologists are being trained. Doctors in states where abortions are illegal aren't learning how to perform an abortion safely. They're not learning how to manage even miscarriages or ectopic pregnancies effectively. The lack of experience and skills impacts healthcare in states including New Jersey. These doctors aren't trained. They haven't had the experience. In addition, some doctors are leaving areas where there are abortion bans, leaving deserts where people can't get the care that they need to manage their pregnancy, to manage pregnancy-related emergencies, or to end a pregnancy. And people are dying. As we hear stories of people who have miscarriages being investigated, arrested, and charged with crimes, I can't help but wonder how many people are going to avoid seeking medical care or rightly be scared to share critical information with their healthcare providers. How many of our friends and family members are going to have an emergency someplace outside of New Jersey and not be able to get care? My nieces and stepdaughters are looking at colleges, and I've had conversations with them about how to get care, how to find care, how to protect yourself. Be careful who you share information with. Pregnancy is complicated, and it's not possible to write a law that is just and fair or will adequately handle every circumstance. We need to leave that decision in the hands of people close who understand what's happening and can make the right decision. And that's not politicians. I hope you will join us after the service to assemble abortion care packages. These are going to go to Pilgrim, which is an abortion center in Montclair, New Jersey, and they'll be handed out to people after they receive their procedures. We also have some information shared with us by the National Council of Jewish Women from Essex, and Phoebe's here joining us today. New Jersey put out an abortion, Know Your Rights, so this is something from the government telling people exactly what you have the rights to do. We have a consumer alert about crisis pregnancy centers, which are scary and dangerous, some calls to actions, and some best language outside. Also, please join us upstairs in the library to help assemble those kits and write notes to our legislators to tell them how important reproductive justice is. Our friends in the legislature haven't been quite as excited about the Reproductive Equity Act as we have, and making sure they know how important it is to us will get it to be a priority and increase protection and increase access so that people not only have the right to get an abortion, but they can get affordable care. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, and with gratitude for the social justice ministry of this congregation and our many partners across New Jersey and across the country working toward reproductive justice, our morning offering will now be most gratefully received.
I am
Good morning. I'm Reverend Robin. My pronouns are she and her, and for those especially joining us online in need of a visual description, I am a short and consistently elevated on Sundays, white woman with nearly shoulder-length brown hair. How are you doing this day, beloved? Good? Oh, okay. This is the Sunday where, recognizing Roe v. Wade, we hold our annual Reproductive Justice Sunday. This is the Sunday now where we also talk about the fight for reproductive justice and the attacks that are growing on reproductive justice. Reproductive justice, in the words of OWL, the comprehensive sexuality education that is shared or created by Unitarian, Universalism, and United Church of Christ. Reproductive justice is, in the words of OWL, about our whole lives. It is about stories like those collected from Jessica Valenti. Valenti has been documenting the harm caused by abortion bans since Roe v. Wade was overturned in June of 2022, including stories like that of a 21-year-old woman in Texas who was denied an abortion, even though her fetus developed without a head. Reproductive justice is about the hospital worker in South Carolina who watched a college student die from attempting to end her own pregnancy. Reproductive justice is about Brittany Watts. Brittany, who had a spontaneous miscarriage. She lives in Ohio, where there is an abortion ban past 22 weeks. Brittany was 21 weeks at the time. She went to the hospital when her water broke and went home to try to understand what to do, as the hospital recommended inducing her in order to avoid an infection. 2 days later, she returned to that hospital after miscarrying at home. And despite confirmation that there was no heartbeat upon delivery and a criminal investigation, she was charged with abusing a corpse and had to go to court, where they eventually dismissed the case, all while trying to heal from a miscarriage. Reproductive justice is about access to cancer screenings. Consider the case of women throughout abortion-banned states who rely on reproductive care centers for routine exams and testing that is critical in the early diagnosis of cancers, including breast, uterine, and cervical cancer. Before the abortion bans, the attack on reproductive justice was long underway, attempting to defund these reproductive centers, including those run by Planned Parenthood. You may recall the immense amount of political pressure exerted in 2012 to ensure that the Susan G. Komen for the Cure Foundation would pull funding for cancer screenings from Planned Parenthood. Reproductive justice is about the financial access to health care, as Carol reminded us. Here in New Jersey, we have failed to pass a Reproductive Equity Act, ensuring that there is vital access to reproductive care for those who cannot afford it. If you cannot afford a life-saving abortion, then what good is a constitution that enshrines it as legal if it is inaccessible? Reproductive justice is about the ability to parent your children. It is about the stealing of Indigenous children from their homes for centuries and the theft for poverty that still occurs disproportionately in Black and brown families in foster care across this country. It is manifest in state and federal policy that is pro-life until a child is born. It is embedded in this country's abject failure to renew the expanded child tax credit in 2021 that had lifted millions of children out of poverty in a country where a conservative estimate says today there are 9 million children living in poverty. Reproductive justice means caring for all of our mothers. It is the story of too many Black mothers who have died for lack of care. It is the story of my friend Crystal, for whom nearly every sign was missed for preeclampsia and who had a traumatic birth followed by a near-death experience, who took months to recover before she could even be present, let alone able to hold her infant daughter. Reproductive justice care means care for transgender and non-binary siblings, for gender-affirming care. It is under attack as our children are under attack. It is the story of so many beloveds caught in states where gender-affirming care is not available and whose lives are cut short by suicide, like my colleague Blake, a Black trans man who never saw 20 years old. It is the self-loathing induced from bullying in schools that put the blame on the child, or the books swept from the shelves for simply declaring that transgender and non-binary people exist, and dare I say that there is a future and communities beyond the present bullying a child might be experiencing. Reproductive justice from the mothers of the reproductive justice movement is, as Missy shared, the right not to have a child, the right to have a child, the right to parent children in safe and healthy environments. In addition, reproductive justice demands sexual autonomy and gender freedom for every human being. And so that, beloved, is what is under attack. But is this not just about political messaging this morning, better positioned for maybe an activist group than a sanctuary? It's a fair question. But I believe, beloved, not only is the personal political, but the pastoral is prophetic. And despite the litany of loss and pain I began with, in the words of my granny, who worked in foundries and cafeterias her whole life and didn't have more than a 6th grade education, but was one of the smartest women I knew, used to say, "Honey, we don't have time to be hopeless." As Holly Neer taught us and the choir sang this morning, we must be open and willing, for to be hopeless dishonors those who have gone before us. Now, I'm usually up here preaching about the goodwill of good people and the love that holds us all. But contrary to my typical nature, I do not want us to assume good intentions of the movement behind the attacks on reproductive justice. Because as Jessica Valenti's documentation shows, it is not accidental. It is not accidental that women, LGBTQ in particular, transgender and non-binary folks, and Black and brown folks are disproportionately harmed by this legislation and by this movement. It is not accidental that words like extremist are lobbied against those who are fighting for reproductive justice, or that phrases like compromise, reasonable, or moderate are employed to describe the recent abortion bans. It is not accidental that good people of both parties have lost their public will to ensure reproductive justice and equity. It is not accidental that those opposing reproductive justice are showing up at school board and town halls and terrifying our children and families. It is not accidental. The attack on reproductive justice is intentional, is planned, and has been organized for well over 50 years. It is fueled by a worldview based in Christian nationalism, and it is a dangerous theology. When you understand the intention behind that terribly dangerous theology here, one that says that difference should not exist, that there is only male and female, and that women must be subservient to men, and their only value is in procreation. One that says we must be pro-life, but indifferent to rising poverty. One that says that not only is difference dangerous, but control is primary. one that goes to the foundational understandings of democracy and tries to sweep them away. Once you understand that theology, you know it's not only a matter of opinion or accident or unfortunate impact. It is a plan to dehumanize, to control, to eradicate difference, and ultimately democracy as we once knew it. And that, beloved, is not only pastoral, personal, political, but it also calls for a prophetic and theologically powered answer that is very, very crystal clear in this. We are in this together. Because, beloved, liberation means a soul belonging from which no one can push out another soul. And liberation also means soul clarity. I exist because my biological mother chose to have me and put me up for adoption. She was strongly opposed to abortion for herself. But she also knew that mandating that for everyone was not the right thing to do. Now, you could reasonably conclude from my origin story that I should be pro-life. Right, Missy? Right, Chris? And, beloved, I'm here to tell you, I am pro-life. I'm pro-life for the pregnant person who is faced with an unwanted pregnancy that will forever alter their life and any future story they could have. I am for the life who is threatened by a pregnancy. I am for the adult life who desperately wants a baby, wants to have a child, and finds out that their fetus has a terminal condition and does not want any suffering. I am for the life of a menopausal woman who has a family history of ovarian cancer and needs access to screening. I am for the life of my oldest child who, without gender-affirming care, would make this life impossible for them to live. I am for the life of a mother caught in the net of poverty who just needs the resources to parent her children. I am for the life of the child who doesn't get dinner in America each night along with 9 million other children of the God I know as love but seems to escape the mouths of so many legislators. I am pro-life, and because of that, I'm also pro-liberation. I'm opposed to the wanton and the wearied and unfaithful approach to religion that says humans must be controlled because of our inherent depravity. The God I know as love incarnate didn't make fallen beings, but instead, each of us was created as the sum potential of all those who preceded us and the unknown prophecy of those yet to emerge. And I believe today that our call as Unitarian Universalists is to get over our present-day squeamish attitudes about public theology and religion and understand in our silence we will be decimated as a people and a country by a worldview that is true heresy, that goes against every essential aspect of what it means to be human and for what so many of our spiritual ancestors fought for. We need to get clear, beloved, in the face of an intentional theological machine and understand in the absence of articulated values, which is all that theology is. It's a system of valuing. I spent a lot of money and a lot of time in a degree to learn that. I give it to you for free. It is only a system of valuing. And in the absence of a good life-affirming theology, what will take hold, I can promise you, what will take hold in our neighborhoods, in our communities, in our state, in our country, what will take hold will be a fear-based, power-grabbing, life-defiling, and liberation-denying theology. That is just the political, personal, and prophetic reality of being human in the United States today. We have to go more public with our faith. our faith in the essential goodness and interconnectedness of all life. I would get back there. I do believe in the goodness and interconnectedness of all life. It also means we're interconnected with everyone, so just, that's a sermon for another day, but we have to go more public with our faith in love with a big L, and liberation as our collective birthright on this blue spinning ball we call home. In a time of decreasing religious literacy and knowledge, it is time to use the power of a faith that once animated founders in this country, abolitionists, suffragists, artists, and philosophers, and yes, even movement makers, to get clear on this faith. Because there are people of goodwill who don't understand the machine that is fueling this attack on reproductive justice, who don't understand that there's another way beyond fear and an assumption of the depravity of humanity, who don't understand that there's a long lineage of religious liberals who, in the face of suffering and pain and harm, said not only do we know better, but we can do better. So faith in action in this year looks like rides to clinics here in New Jersey, supporting birthing centers in predominantly Black communities in New Jersey, where you can't even give birth in your own town, like Trenton. You have to leave your community to give birth in the state's capital. It means pushing this Reproductive Equity Act to the finish line. It means telling our stories and showing up at our school boards when they come for our transgender and non-binary students and claim that they are protecting students and keeping them safe, which is happening right now across New Jersey. There's another school board meeting just this coming week. It means marching, and yes, it means packaging care kits for those who must travel hours and in some cases days to get to New Jersey to get an abortion. It means funding reproductive care. It means talking to our families and neighbors who don't yet get it. It means being more bold about what we believe, not to create an empire of Unitarian Universalism. I don't even know what that would exactly look like, given the diversity of thought, but to give our communities a better choice and a truer language of how to be better humans together, because that's what we're talking about, how to be better humans together. It means testimony in those Board of Ed meetings, but it also means common sense conversations between neighbors. So that is reproductive justice, beloved, and that we must decidedly be in together, and that is what it means to be a liberal leaning into liberation, to be pro-life and to midwife the world that must be born. So nearly 2 years have passed since the overturning of Roe v. Wade and Dobbs. I invite us this day to take not defeat but defiance. Tap in to the long line of those underground networks and public declaration with true calling and with organizing, with mutual aid and care. Because there's no time to be hopeless. We must stay open and willing. Live in the uncompromising truth of the moral clarity. We are wonderfully interconnected. We are each worthy and imbued with dignity. We believe in life. We live in love. And we are unrepentant of our collective and universal birthright claim to liberation. Amen. And so may it be.
Our closing hymn is 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. Thank you so much, the choir. They'll be leading this again. If you're following along in the hymnal, we're doing a slightly different form. It's a little bit shorter than appears in the hymnal, but Joelle will be shouting out the verses as we go.
Beloved, would you take hands with one another for our closing blessing? And now may the love that is our source and our ultimate return hold you and what's more, animate you. Fill you with a faith in action, a leaning toward that liberation that declares we are in this together, that fills you with a hope that honors the spiritual ancestors and gives hope and future to those just emerging. May it be so, may you be so. Amen. Exactly. Hi, Carol. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
I didn't realize you were here. Or you're here for second? Or?
Yeah, but I was the beacon baker.
Oh,
but not
well, thank
realizing
you.
There was a ton of food from yesterday. They're like, I get here like, oh well. You can always eat more
Abundance.
cookies.
Yeah, exactly. And some at Warm